Welcome back to Strayatrains. In this video we take a look at the ins and the outs of the Mernda Line. Hope you enjoy the video. And as tradition, a quick overview of the line to start the video. It is served by Metro's Extrapolis fleet and the line code is MDD. The line is a total of 29 stations long and 18 of them lie on the Mernda Line exclusively. It serves Melbourne's northeastern suburbs and is part of the Clifton Hill group, giving the colour red on our railways map. And service terminations include Reservoir, Epping, South Morang and Mernda. For service alterations, stations such as Clifton Hill can be a service termination. In terms of service notes, Mernda services utilise the City Loop in a clockwise direction at all times. This is Platforms 1 in the City Loop, which is part of the Clifton Hill City Circle Loop. Southern Cross Platform 9, and typically Platform 1 at Flinders Street, but sometimes Platforms 2 and 3, and on the rare occasion Platforms 4. In terms of the express pattern, during the peak PM, Mernda services stop all to Jolimont, run express from Jolimont to Clifton Hill to Preston, Preston to Reservoir, Reservoir to Thomastown, Thomastown to Epping, then South Morang to Mernda via the City Loop. During the peak PM, there are no limited express services. An interesting observation is for the Reservoir and Epping services, they utilise the exact same limited express pattern except stopping at their respective station instead of going all the way to Mernda. This is rather uncommon as typically peak terminations stops all services on other lines. The Mernda Line operates at a 20-minute frequency off peak, but 10 minutes to Clifton Hill as the alternating service will go towards Eltham-Hurst Bridge. During peak, at about every 6 to 10 minutes. On night times, 30 minutes, roughly every 15 minutes to Clifton Hill. On the weekend, we're looking at a 20-minute frequency and every 10 minutes to Clifton Hill, similar to off peak. And then on the night weekend network on Friday and Saturday nights, you can expect a 60-minute frequency on the Mernda Line, and it is a service that stops all to Mernda except Southern Cross via the City Loop. Travel tip time. The first tip is there are no limited express trains after the peak AM, so if you are at any station on the Mernda Line, you can assume that the service will be a stop-all service unless you're on a special. Similarly, another way to remember the service is whilst at Flinders Street, Mernda trains can depart varying platforms, although it is almost always Platform 1. At Southern Cross, it must be Platform 9. In the City Loop, it must be Platform 1. And then all other stations towards Mernda, Platform 2. Then all other stations towards Flinders Street must be Platform 1, with the exception of Mernda, which could be Platform 1 and 2. So it's very easy to know what platform your train will be departing on. Really, the only thing you need to look up is departure time. And not really a tip finally, but consider yourself lucky if you do commute on the Mernda Line. Due to access required to Epping workshops, which is the main Extrapolis workshops for trains, the Mernda Line is hardly ever down with bus replacements. So my tip is, be thankful for Epping workshops. Now time for some future proposals. Well, I must say the Mernda Line is a rather well operating line. A lot of stations are fairly modern. Whilst yes, the frequency of every 20 minutes could be a little long off peak, overall the Mernda Line is a pretty successful line. Now, in terms of future proposals, I guess the main one really is a future line extension elsewhere into the city of Whittlesea, possibly to the suburb of Whittlesea itself, or maybe Wallace. The Mernda Line has been extended a number of times throughout its history and in recent years. In fact, twice during the 2010s. First from Epping to South Morang, and then later on in the decade from South Morang to the current terminus of Mernda. So, who says another future line extension isn't off the table? And back due to popular demand, we will conclude with a cool story about the Mernda Line. And we're going to date back to the early 2000s. Whilst this isn't really a story on the Mernda Line per se, this did occur at the old Epping workshops, which is located very close to Epping Station, which is just next to the Mernda Line. During 2004, Extrapolis set 925M 1663T and 926M was nicknamed Don Corrie after the late railway worker of 38 years, Don Corrie. During the naming ceremony, there was a banner to make the naming official, with some of Corrie's family members present. This set is one of very few trains on our metro network that is named. If you do look closely, you can even see the name Don Corrie on the side of the train that is still there to this current day. And with that, we conclude another Ins and Outs episode, this time of the Mernda Line. Who knows where we'll head up next? Only one way to find out. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I think we'll leave it at that. Cheers.